Storytime about how my gay best friend confessed that he is not gay and he's actually straight and he's actually in love with me. Let's call him Ted. Ted and I met in 10th grade. Now let me be clear, I did not think he was gay. In fact, I knew that he was hooking up with other girls. He's attractive and one of the most popular guys in school. I knew for a fact that he was hooking up with the most popular girls in school. He befriended me, he told me that he was secretly gay, but I was the only person he had ever told. We became besties. Started telling me about the guys he liked, about guys he had hooked up with, and I started telling him all my dirty secrets too. We would sleep over at his house almost every other weekend. He would sleep over at my house almost every other weekend. But we were together every single day and every single weekend. His parents loved me. Dad would always say things like, I can't wait for you and Ted to get married. And I would just stay quiet thinking, oh my gosh, if you only knew, you have a gay son. For 3 years, his parents thought we were in a relationship, all because he wanted to cover the fact that he was gay. After graduating high school, we went to the same university and we decided to be roommates. In front of people, he acted like my boyfriend. He would kiss my neck and hold my hand. It gets so much worse. After deciding to become roommates and moving in together, he was still acting like he was my boyfriend in front of other people. Because according to him, our friends and his family would never accept that he was gay. Anytime we were in front of people, he would grab my hand, kiss my neck, and just act like a couple. Now, living together was fun. We would go to parties together and he would always take care of me. I was still changing in front of him, was still telling him all of my secrets. This man would wash my underwear. That's how comfortable I was with him. One night I told him I had a huge crush on this guy. That's when he told me that we should practice kissing so that I could kiss with my crush. I was a little bit tipsy, so I accepted. 10 minutes into my kissing lesson, he starts putting his hand on places he shouldn't. That's when he confessed that he's never been gay. He only told me that lie in high school to get close to me, that the lie grew so much that he couldn't retract. Then he tried to kiss me again, pushed him away and told him that what he had done was abuse. I felt completely violated. Kicked him out of the apartment, of course, and I told his parents and mine. My dad went to his house and punched him in the face. I'm even getting therapy for it now. Should I report him or something?
Storytime about my psychotic ex-girlfriend. So a little background information, I was 22 years old and I was working and I had started dating this girl who we're going to call Maddie. And she told me that before we got together, she had been involved in a relationship with a minor, which kind of threw me off, but I decided to look past it. But I found it a little bit sus that she was still going to bonfires that were being thrown by high schoolers. But that's besides the point. Now, both her and I's families were not wealthy at all, but she ended up telling me that she was pregnant, so my family and I let her move in with us. From day one, my family tried warning me about this girl. They were like, yeah, Maddie leaves the house dressed provocatively. We just think it's weird that she's pregnant and she's not going out with you whenever she's dressed like this. Well, whenever my family told me about her leaving dressed like that, I called her and she was claiming that she went to go and visit a family member. Later on, I found out that she was trying to cheat on me. After this caused us to have tons of arguments. This is whenever I realized this girl was psycho. My mom had offered to drive her and I to her ultrasound appointment. So like I said, the one day my mom offers to drive us to her ultrasound appointment. So her and my mom come and pick me up and my girlfriend Maddie's acting super strange. So my mom and I, we ask her like, do you not want to go? Like, do you want to leave? And she's like, no, everything's fine. And then whenever we get to her appointment, so my mom and I are waiting in the waiting room. And then all of a sudden, 6 police officers rush into the doctor's office and they're all standing around me with their hands on their guns. And they said that they were told by Maddie that I was holding her against her will and a bunch of other shit that wasn't true. So when my mom explained to them what was going on, they let me go. But then later I found out that Maddie had called her mom asking her to call the cops just to say that so that way she would be able to leave because she was tired of dating me. So at this point, I'm like, whatever. Fast forward, she has the baby. And then she calls me and tells me that it's mine. Let me tell y'all something. She was pregnant way before her and I even started dating. Part 3 about my psychotic ex. So like I said, the police pull up and then my mom tells them what actually happened and we're like, all right, we're done with this. So fast forward, when the kid's born, she texts me and she's like, yo, the baby's yours. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because I'm going to be honest, y'all, she got pregnant way before her and I even got together. And if the baby was mine and she had it whenever she did, that baby would literally have came out without like nose, eyes, anything. So then she starts pulling me into a bunch of drama. She uses this guy to try and scare me. And he's like, oh, you're a deadbeat dad. I'm going to come and I'm going to F you up. And then I start getting mail at my house from her. One of them was from CPS. And then another one was that she had a warrant out for her arrest. So fast forward, I end up getting married to my wife, who I love so much. And she's still trying to start stuff with me. Y'all, this is 6 years after that whole situation. She keeps reaching out to my wife, trying to be friends with her. Also trying to tell her that that kid is mine because we have the same temper issues. It's just ridiculous.
I'd been with my boyfriend Colton for a couple years, but then one day he told me he'd fallen out of love with me. It broke my heart, but I loved him so much that I just wanted him to be happy. I mean, if I couldn't make him happy, I'd rather he found someone who could. We were still sharing an apartment, though. My friends thought it was weird, but I hated living alone, and I didn't have the money to find a place by myself. We still got along okay, but then Colton told me he needed some space, so he was going to spend the weekend with his parents. Alone and feeling sorry for myself, I called my best friend Christine to ask if we could meet up, but she said she needed to look after her daughter because she had a fever. I offered to come over, but she said she didn't want me to get sick too. I ended up binge-watching sad movies on Netflix all weekend. Colton came back on Monday. He told me he'd hung out with his parents doing nothing, but when I took out the trash, I noted some crumpled up zoo tickets for 2 adults and 1 kid. It was so weird. He'd said he hadn't gone anywhere, so why would he have zoo tickets? Even stranger, why would he have a kid's ticket? Had he lied to me? Had he been on a date with a new girlfriend? I told myself to stop thinking about it. I mean, it wasn't my business. It was over between us. But I couldn't stop wondering. What if he'd broken up with me because he found someone else? What if he'd been seeing her behind my back? I decided to do some detective work and bought a GPS tracker I could follow with an app on my phone. I knew it was wrong, illegal even, but I stuck the GPS tracker on the bottom of his car anyway. Now I could see wherever he went. Everything was normal over the next few days. He went to work, he came home, like he always did. But on Friday, he told me he was visiting his family for the weekend. Again. Showtime! I was about to find out where he really went. As soon as he left, I got into my car, I opened the GPS tracker app and followed him, keeping my distance so he wouldn't notice. I thought I recognized the route, and when he parked, my heart dropped. We were right outside Christine's place. It all made sense. That's why I'd found the kid's zoo ticket. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe he was just stopping by on the way to his folks. I had to actually see them together to be 100% sure. So I parked my car close to the building so I could watch the entrance. It took 3 hours of waiting, but eventually I saw all 3 of them coming out together, and my ex-boyfriend was holding hands with my ex-best friend. It really hurt to see them all together. I'm not the kind of person to make a big scene, so I didn't confront them. What would be the point? It wouldn't change anything. Instead, I drove home and lost myself in a tub of ice cream. I don't know if there's some lesson in the story. I'm looking for a new apartment though, and when I move, I'll surround myself with more honest people. It's time to let go.
I accused my wife of cheating and asked for a paternity test for our 3 kids. Man. Basically what the title says. My wife has brown hair so dark it looks black, blue eyes, and a skin tone that is a couple of shades darker than tan. I have black hair, dark brown eyes, and a skin tone a shade darker than my wife. We have 3 children, 2 boys, 6, and a little girl, 3. None of them look like me or my wife. My boys have brown reddish hair, hazel eyes. My girl is a dark blonde with light brown eyes. They are all on the lighter side when it comes to skin tone. I didn't think anything of it at first. Both me and my wife have some interesting heritage, but from the birth of my sons, my family kept bringing it up to me. They would point out the facial features all the time. Where does that chin come from? Look at those cheekbones. That boy stands as straight as a ruler. Who has hair that's straight? Things like that. I shut them down or ignored it all. I never paid any mind to them. Then an old high school friend of my wife was in town. He was only in town for a couple of days, so there wasn't really time for my wife to meet him for lunch or anything because we had a lot going on. So my wife invited him to our girl's 3rd birthday party. He wasn't at our wedding and I never met him before, even on previous visits. He was always in and out. Sometimes my wife could see him, sometimes she couldn't. Then there he was. This tall white man with dark blonde hair and hazel colored eyes. He and my wife were obviously close. They hugged for a long time. The whole time he was there, he was wherever my wife was, and me and my family watched them. If she was putting more food out, he was there helping. If she was collecting stray plates and cups and trash, he was there giving a hand. The whole time he was there, they were laughing and talking. She introduced him to those who didn't know him, but it was obvious he wasn't there to socialize. He just wanted to talk to her for the time he was there. A couple of hours later, it was time for him to go. My wife walked him out. They had another long hug before he climbed into his Uber and left. My mother and sister were in my ears from the moment they laid eyes on him. I didn't need to hear their suspicions. I had plenty of my own walking around in my head. I'll spare you all the gory details of my behavior in the weeks following my girl's birthday. I'll only say I wasn't a pleasure to be around. My wife doesn't like drama, doesn't like conflict. She likes to talk things out. That doesn't mean she'll back away from the conflict and avoid drama at any cost. Only that she prefers to work things out calmly. So in the middle of me picking an argument with her, when I finally outright accused her of cheating, accused her of passing those kids off as mine and demanding a paternity test, I did not expect her to come back to me as hot as she did. She said she had been waiting for the day I would throw this at her. She had not been blind or deaf to what all of my family had said and done over the years in my allowing it. But she had hoped I had more trust in her than to listen to people that never approved of her. People who had nothing better to do with their lives but talk BS about everyone else. I don't know why, but her saying those things pushed me over the edge. The argument grew and grew. I grabbed her by the upper arm so hard I left bruises and shook her. Her hand came up and sat me right across the face. The police were called. I was made to leave the house. I went to my parents. A couple of days later, I went home, but the locks had been changed and my wife wasn't answering the door or picking up her phone. The following week, she filed for a petition for paternity of all of my kids. 2 weeks later, the day after I was given confirmation that they were my kids, I received divorce papers. It's been months. I've tried calling her. I have reached out through Facebook, tried intermediaries, I've written letters. She's refused to engage. I've been told by her sister, who has been blocked by my wife, that she refuses to talk to anyone about me and is cutting out anyone who tries to bring me up. She doesn't care if they're family or friends. One word about me and she cuts them out, blocks them. Her parents are the go-between these days and only about the kids. They bring the kids to me whenever I ask for them. My wife won't allow me out the house, not even to pick up or drop off the kids. Yet, she doesn't try to stop me from seeing them. Her mom told me she doesn't know if my wife will ever forgive me. She's deeply hurt and absolutely refuses to speak about me. I try to give them money for my kids every time I see them, but they refuse it, saying my wife doesn't want my money. A mutual friend has told me he thinks I broke her. He and his wife help her with the kids sometimes, and he says the life has gone right out of her. I have leased an apartment a couple of blocks away from my wife and children and have gone very low contact with my own family. Not that I blame them for what I did, but it's hard to be around them right now. They continue to blame my wife for all that's happened and take no accountability for any wrongdoings against her since my sons were born. My kids keep asking when I'm coming home and why mom cries all the time. I don't know what to tell them. I'm not looking for advice on how to save my marriage. It's too late for that. There's no getting around the fact that I've destroyed my family. I miss my kids. I miss my wife. I wish I could take it all back. I've lost her. Even so, maybe there are people here who can advise me on how to foster an amicable co-parenting relationship. Maybe help me find a way that will get my wife to accept my financial support for her and the kids. I still pay the mortgage on the house, so she doesn't have to worry about that. She works, but she doesn't make enough to live comfortably. I am prepared to be vilified. My only hope is that there is some useful counsel and guidance that comes with the insults and disparagement. You created this bullshit scenario in your head and not only confronted her, but you also assaulted her to the point of leaving bruises on her skin and imploded on your marriage. Good for her for not tolerating the abuse. You now have the proof that your kids are yours, so now accept that your relationship is over and make sure that you're paying your child support. And if she won't accept your money, then open a savings account for all your 3 kids and put it there for them when they're older. It blows my mind that people really don't understand biology. I have green eyes. My parents both have brown eyes. People are like, where did these green eyes come from? Me and my brother have green eyes. None of my parents' siblings have green eyes. None of my parents' parents have green eyes. Out of my mom's 7 siblings, out of my dad's 13 siblings, none of their siblings or their kids have green eyes. Just me and my brother. Called a genetic mutation. It happens. There's a possibility that your kids can come out. You ever see like couples like black hair, brown eyes, they have ginger babies? I've seen it. It happens. And you also said, I'll spare you all the glory details of my behavior. If this is the version without the glory details, I don't even want it. I'm worried about what really went down. He knows what he did was wrong, right? Obviously, but still. He doesn't want people to give opinion on his marriage because he knows it's over, which good. At least you know that. He's just trying to be amicable, which I don't think wants anything to do with you. You not only accused your wife of one of the worst things, infidelity, but you grabbed her so hard that you left bruises and wonder why she won't engage with you.
Am I in the wrong for divorcing my husband after catching him in bed with our married neighbor and exposing her to her husband? This is honestly such a mess and I don't know if I handled it the right way, but here we go. I, 34 female, have been married to my husband, 36 male, for 7 years. We have an 8-year-old autistic son and life's already been pretty stressful for both of us. I thought we were handling it as a team, like we were in this together, until a few weeks ago when everything fell apart. We live in a small neighborhood where everyone's pretty friendly and I got along well with our next door neighbors, Emily, 32 female, and her husband, Dave, 35 male. Emily and I weren't super close, but we chatted often. Our kids played together sometimes, and our husbands would occasionally hang out too. At first, I thought it was nice that my husband and Emily seemed to get along. You know, just neighbors being friendly. But then things started to feel off. My husband became more secretive, especially with his phone, and he always seemed to bump into Emily when I wasn't around. He'd go out for random walks or suddenly need to run errands right after dinner. I noticed these little things, but I didn't want to seem paranoid. I mean, we've been through a lot together. I didn't think he would do something like that to me. Then one day, everything came crashing down. I had to come home early from work unexpectedly because our son's school had a half day I forgot about. I walked in, and there, in our bedroom, I found my husband and Emily together, in our bed. I felt like the world stopped. They both freaked out when they saw me, my husband scrambling for clothes and Emily crying, saying it was a mistake and that she was so sorry. I couldn't even process it. I just walked out, shaking, and went to pick my son up from school. Later that night, I confronted my husband, and he admitted to having an affair with her for the past few months. He begged me to forgive him, said it was a stupid, impulsive thing, and swore that he loved me and didn't want to lose our family. I was heartbroken, but I couldn't even look at him. I had no idea what to do, but I knew that I couldn't stay with someone who would betray me like that. Then there was Emily's husband, Dave. I knew him well enough to know that he was completely in the dark about all of this. I couldn't just stay silent and let him be blindsided like I was. So, the next day, I went over to their house while Emily was out and told Dave everything. I even showed him proof. Texts, pictures, everything I had. He was devastated, obviously, but he thanked me for being honest with him. And that's when the real drama started. Both my husband and Emily went ballistic when they found out that I told Dave. My husband said I should have kept it between us and worked it out for the sake of our son. Emily called me all kinds of names, saying I had no right to tell her husband and that I ruined her life. She even claimed it wasn't serious and that I blew everything out of proportion. Now, Dave is considering divorcing her, and I've already filed for divorce myself. But I'm getting a lot of flack from mutual friends, saying I went too far by telling Dave and that I should have tried to keep things private to avoid tearing apart two families. I feel like I did what I had to do, but I'm questioning myself now. Should I have kept quiet and handled it differently? Am I in the wrong for telling my sister she's not allowed to bring her homemade food to Thanksgiving this year because her cooking is ruining the meal? Every year, our family does a big Thanksgiving dinner, and we all typically bring a dish or two. My sister, who's a lovely person in every other way, insists on cooking something homemade every time. The issue? She's not a great cook. And I don't mean just not great. I mean she has somehow managed to turn classic dishes into borderline inedible creations. For context, last Thanksgiving, she showed up with her special recipe stuffing that was over-seasoned with random spices like cinnamon and cardamom. It was dry and the flavors were confusing and totally off for stuffing. Only one person took a small bite and the rest went untouched. Another year, she brought a green bean casserole that had some kind of strange, chewy texture. She later admitted that she used coconut milk and almond flour to experiment. No one wanted seconds of that either. This year, I'm hosting Thanksgiving. Since I'm responsible for putting it all together, I wanted to keep the menu consistent so that people could actually enjoy a cohesive meal. I thought I'd avoid drama by asking her to bring non-food items instead, like wine, soda, or even some flowers. I explained to her, very kindly I thought, that I just wanted to make things easy and streamlined, and I'd handle the main dishes, but she didn't take it well. She got offended and told me that I was being controlling and shutting her out of the family gathering. She then accused me of making her feel inadequate and said that Thanksgiving is about everyone contributing, not me deciding what's acceptable. I told her that everyone appreciates her effort, but that she could contribute in other ways and still be part of it. She doubled down and said that she's bringing her famous green bean casserole whether I like it or not. Now, my mom and a couple of other family members have chimed in, saying I should just let her bring whatever she wants because it's Thanksgiving and it's the thought that counts. They're acting like I'm committing a huge offense by wanting the food to be enjoyable for everyone and not have random experimental dishes that no one will eat. But I feel like I'm just trying to keep the meal enjoyable and, frankly, edible. I don't think it's wrong to want guests to actually enjoy the food, especially since I'm putting in a lot of effort to host. After this, things have escalated fast. I try to compromise, but it's already turning into a whole thing and Thanksgiving is still a few weeks away. After our last conversation, my sister was being pretty cagey about what she planned to make, so I reached out to my mom, hoping that she could help smooth things over. Instead, she got defensive, saying I'm overthinking and that it's just one dish. I told her that I wasn't sure it was just one dish anymore, especially after hearing about my sister's grocery haul, including canned oysters and edible glitter. Then, my mom let it slip that my sister has been hard at work at some creative menu she's planning as her Thanksgiving surprise. Apparently, she's been telling the family group chat, which I wasn't included in by the way, that I'm being controlling and that she wants to expand everyone's palate with something truly unique. To top it off, my cousin sent me a screenshot from the group chat where my sister said she's bringing not one, but 3 dishes to Thanksgiving now. She's calling them her Thanksgiving trio experience, complete with their own place settings and little menu cards she's assigning. I'm officially panicking because I have no idea what she's planning to serve, and from what I've heard, it's not remotely traditional. At this point, half of the family thinks I'm overreacting, while the other half is texting me with things like, is she really bringing glittered sweet potatoes? I feel stuck. If I try to control it anymore, I'm the bad guy. But if I don't, Thanksgiving might turn into a tasting event for my sister's avant-garde cooking. So yeah, Thanksgiving is weeks away and it's already become a family spectacle. I don't know whether to brace myself or just preemptively order pizza. What should I do?
My 32 female, husband 32 male, won't cut off his emotional affair with a coworker 20 female. I'm getting tired of the gaslighting, but I have no proof this time. Do I confront him again? I don't know. I never thought I'd be the one posting here for advice, but I'm truly at a loss and I don't know what to do. Throw away for privacy, even though I probably put too many details in here as is. I apologize for how long this is. There are actually more details I'm leaving out, but felt it was getting too long. My husband, 33 male, and I, 32 female, have been together for over a decade, grew up in the same town together, and have lived in another state together for about 8 years. There's been plenty of great times. He's truly my best friend. We've had some hard times too. We've been through it all since we got together in college. Long distance relationships, cross-country moves, family drama, death, job changes, etc. And I've always come out on the other side stronger. Until now. This all started about a year ago when my husband's coworker Laura, mid-20s female, came on to him at a bar where I was not present, but I had been there earlier in the night. She knows he is married. He was pretty drunk and told her off. I made it clear to him I did not like this girl and that I did not want him drinking around her anymore. I can give more details on her if needed, but I have had a bad feeling about her since the moment I met her. He told me not to worry about it since she's fat. I've always trusted him. We share locations, have each other's passcodes and passwords, talk multiple times a day, etc. So I've tried to brush it off as best as I could. In our 12 years together, I've never had any reason to worry about that type of thing. Fast forward to last summer when we were on a trip and late at night on a weekend, I see a text from Laura on his work phone. There is no work-related reason for them to be talking during this time, so red flags went off immediately. I looked through the messages and there was nothing incriminating, just back and forth conversations, but I still confronted him about it. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to his sister. I asked him why he was talking to her knowing that I wasn't comfortable with it, and we had a long talk about it, and he assured me it wouldn't happen again. Why would she send it to his sister? I don't understand. Are you asking, like, is she your friend? Are you looking for advice? Like, hey, why is your brother doing this again? You should be talking to him about it. The next week, he came home from work and told me that he had a conversation with her where he told her they could no longer talk if it was not work-related since I'm getting the wrong impression of their relationship. I wouldn't even say that. Like, he doesn't have to put your name in the mix at all. I would say, hey, I don't think we should be talking if it's not about work, period. Not that my wife feels uncomfortable or anything like that. Just say, I don't find it appropriate. That's it. Why bring your name into it? Everything was fine until Christmas when we went to visit family. After Christmas Eve with his family, we went back to the hotel and we were getting ready for bed. When again, his work phone goes off with a text from Laura. We had both been drinking, so I grabbed his phone and looked through all the messages. Again, nothing super incriminating, but he had assured me before that they would only talk if it was work related, and there's no reason for them to be texting at 1 a.m. after Christmas Eve. I admittedly was furious. I sent a text back to Laura basically telling her to off, blocked her number, and threw his phone in the toilet. He was too drunk to really comprehend what was going on and didn't say much. Just a lot of, what's your problem? Nothing has happened, and bullshit like that. I didn't sleep a wink that night and actually packed all of my stuff to catch a flight home. I didn't end up going, and instead we had a long talk again, and he assured me it would never happen again and that he loves me and that I'm his soulmate. He changed his work phone password after this, which I understand. I'm sorry, you two just sound really, really, really unhealthy. There's no trust between either of you. The Christmas fight took a lot of willpower to get over on my part, and right when I finally felt like I was making some progress in forgiving him, things went downhill once more. We found out recently that his company had an opportunity to move us to another city in our state, about 3 hours from where we live. The catch was that the move had to happen as soon as possible, but since we don't have any kids and I work remotely, we decided to take the leap. It was a bit of a mad dash to find a place to live, but a realtor helped us find a place. We signed a lease and moved. I found out later that the realtor was referred to us by Laura, which I wasn't worried about considering she works in a department that helps facilitate these types of things for their employees. In the middle of our move, my husband tells me that he has to go on a work trip to help recruit college kids from a competition that he used to participate in. He was planning to attend with guys that he actually works with now and was on a competition team within college, which I didn't love given the timing, but I understood. Come to find out, one of the guys dropped out and now Laura is attending in his place. He was upfront about this to me and I made it very clear I was not okay with this. Again, he reassured me that everything would be fine and he would check in with me as much as possible. The week before the trip, my husband had a going away party for work at a local brewery, which he originally told me about and asked if I wanted to come. Now that the party was approaching, he never mentioned to me again, nor told me about any details. I felt as though he was purposely keeping me away from it once he knew that Laura would be attending. While he was there, I was texting him and got no response. I could see his location and saw that he was still there, so I figured he must just be having conversations with his coworkers. It was getting late and I knew this place closed at 9. His location was still showing there for about 20 minutes after closing, and then it was gone. I called him, no answer. Texted, no answer. No location for over an hour. We live in a high cell service area, so I know he did not lose service and my texts were being delivered. I checked his Apple Watch and checked the location of his phone through it, and he was in front of Laura's apartment. I texted him that something felt very wrong and that I needed him to come home. He called me back and acted like nothing is wrong. I could tell he was drunk and covering up a lie. He was giving way too many details that I never asked for about where he's been, what happened at the end of the night, how one of his coworkers got too drunk and he had to drive him home, So I asked him why he was just near an apartment that Laura lives in. He denied it and told me he had no idea what I was talking about, that I was making things up and being worried for no reason, that he doesn't even know how to turn off his location. He's not stupid, but he's playing dumb. Just textbook gaslighting. He got home and it was more of the same, but the conversation continued and we made up. I asked him why he keeps talking to her and why he keeps doing this even though he knows it hurts me. He just said he didn't know. He finally admitted that he had to drive a coworker home, and since she lived on the way, he dropped her off as well. He claims he didn't tell me because he thought I would be angry. My instinct tells me there's more to it than that, but I have no proof. The following week was the work trip, and I again made it known that I was not okay with him going, especially after what had just occurred. In the end, it felt like I had no choice as he went anyway because he claimed it was too late to cancel. The whole time he was there, he texted me nonstop, FaceTimed me, etc. And as much as I wasn't happy, I accepted it. When he got back, we completed our move and everything has been great. I think part of me is just happy to be away from where Laura lives. This is where things have derailed considerably, except that he doesn't know that I know this yet. This past weekend, we made a trip back to our old house 3 hours away to see some friends and drove separately since we left on different days. Yesterday, at the end of the trip, he was finishing some things up around the house and I wanted to drive back before it got dark, so I left around 2:30 and told him to let me know when he was on his way too. Here's the timeline of events. 4:45. He texted me a picture of the project he was working on, so I figured he would be on his way shortly. 5 o'clock. Text me something about the photo. 5:30, I replied to his text when I got home and it says not delivered. I checked to see if he had left yet, but his location was not loading. It just had a ping at 5:02, relatively near where he had to get on the highway, 13-minute drive from our house. The ping was showing on the top of a hotel right off the highway, but since it's right near on the ramp, I didn't think anything of it and assumed he was just in a spotty service area of his drive. 5:50, I called him and his phone goes straight to voicemail. 6:05, I call his work phone and it rings but no answer. Odd since he has it connected to his truck. 6:20, he called me back and it sounded like he was getting into his truck. He said he was at a gas station off the highway that's about 25 minutes from the house. This matches his location, which is now back. He briefly says he left around 5:30 from the house, which the math doesn't add up. Says his personal phone died and he plugged it into his car. 8:30ish, he walks in the door. I know he was at the house at 4:45. Maybe his phone did die a little after 5 p.m. Then he picked up and left the house a little before 6. Plugged his phone in and made it to the gas station 25 minutes away by 6:20. But what doesn't sit right is the ping off the highway at 5:02. If his phone died at home, why would it ping his location 13 minutes away? I suppose it's possible the ping is inaccurate and I don't know enough about it. Normally I could rationalize this all, but something wasn't sitting right, so I checked our phone bill this morning and my heart absolutely sank. Text messages and phone calls on his personal phone to a number I don't have. A lot of phone calls going back months and all lining up with weekends we were not together. Long phone calls of an hour plus each time. His entire drive both to and from our old house are 67 minutes, 24 minutes, 18 minutes, etc., starting at 6:15. They were calling each other back each time the call dropped and spoke the entire time. I reverse looked up the number and it's Laura. He hung up with me and called her. I have no words for how hurt and foolish I feel. He's my entire world, and without him, I would feel completely alone. But I don't know if that's better or worse than the loneliness I've been feeling these past few months. I hate that I've become jealous and distrusting. I never would have thought twice about any of this before, but now I overthink every small detail. The gaslighting and the broken promises are tearing me apart. Each time I've confronted him, I've been met with accusations that I'm crazy and looking for things that aren't there. I could have let the timing of the drive go, but these phone calls for hours and hours have added a layer of suspicion that I cannot overlook. Even if nothing physical happened between them, the emotional cheating somehow gets deeper. I have a screenshot of the ping, I have the phone bill. What I don't have is the content of the text on his personal phone. I want to check that before I confront him, but I just don't know if I can hold it together. I have no evidence of anything physical, and if they did meet last night, it would have been brief, but it's plausible. It's also plausible that they didn't meet in person, only talked. It's even more plausible that something happened on the work trip or after the going away party. I don't know what to do. Should I confront him when he gets home tonight with what I have? Ask to see his phone? Take his phone? Just pack up and go? Am I actually looking for things that aren't there? Any advice is appreciated. Holy moly! At this point, I wouldn't even want him if I was you. Also, there's a big part. He was driving drunk with all these people. You know, I'll be honest. At first, I thought you were just being really insecure. So I apologize for my internal thoughts. Because when you admitted that you checked his phone multiple times and found nothing incriminating, I was like, okay, then leave it alone. But I guess your gut was telling you that something was wrong, you know. And then also I was like, how do you even know where Laura lives? That was like I was like, how do you know where she lives? This was stressful for me to leave. Honestly, this was really stressful for each. I can't even speak. Honestly, this was really stressful for me to read. If I would have left by this time, if he's gonna go, if you want to, I'm the type of person I would want to confront, but I would be in an emotionally steady mind. So calm, collected. Whenever you're ready, have that conversation, and you say, why were you talking to Laura on your way home that day? When I specifically told you multiple times, I do not like you being associated with her at all. You don't respect that. You don't respect me, and you obviously enjoy talking to her. So keep going talking to her because you won't be needing to talk to me anymore. I'm out of here. Dip. Get out. Also, driving home drunk. Big no-no. Or was he really drunk? I don't know. But still, these are all very, very concerning things.